Hi, I'm Helen Brown Coverdale. I'm a legal and political theorist working at LSE, and I'm here to talk to you about your research question. We've given you the broad theme of being human in a technological age to help you to focus your research. But what topic will your group use to help narrow your research down further? Perhaps you want to think about computer programming and how people interact with software and apps. Perhaps you want to think about engineering challenges, such as dealing with climate change or renewable energy sources. Or maybe you're interested in the uses and abuses of big data. And then there are social questions about users. How do humans use technology? Take some time to brainstorm some topics, and then think about what your topics imply. What claims can we make in relation to those topics? Let's take the example of renewable energy. This topic might imply some claims such as that renewable energy sources are possible, that renewable energy sources are desirable. So far, so relatively uncontroversial. But what about the claim that renewable energy sources will have a positive impact on human quality of life? Or that renewable energy sources are worth the economic and social costs of investing in them? I hope you're beginning to see that some claims are just more interesting than others. This helps us to answer the so what question. Our research might be interesting, but what can we get out of it that makes other people interested too? Think about the relationships involved in these claims and these topics. Think about conflicts, the contributions technology and human beings might make, tensions, and developments and challenges and changes which might change the way we think about them. The descriptions we use which can shape the ways in which we think. So here's an example of thinking about the claims that we make that are implicit about the topics we think about. We might think about the contribution of renewable energy sources to being human in a technological age. Or we might think about the role of renewable energy sources for driving changes in the human experience. Next of all, get specific. You've brainstormed a bunch of relationships and claims and topics. So which relationships are you interested in? With what technology? Used when? And where? And how? And under what conditions? With what intended and unintended implications? According to whose experience of being human? And who does this exclude? So we've started to ask some questions about your claim. To develop these, think about what happens if we limit the claim to a specific context. Perhaps we want to talk about in London, or Europe, or Southeast Asia. Or perhaps we're interested in limiting the claim to specific characteristics. Maybe you're particularly interested in mobile apps, or maybe you're particularly interested in uses of technology which help people with disabilities. What happens if we think on a bigger scale? Or a smaller one? Having lots of questions will help us to find out what we don't already know. So how should you choose your topic? You need to think about what your literature review doesn't tell you. So of all those questions you have so far, which ones are the ones we don't have answers to yet? Thinking about what the literature review doesn't tell us will help us think about which questions might give interesting answers. But we also need to think about what we can do in the time available and with the resources we have. So, what topic do you think you will be able to gather suitable data to address? And what topic do you think you'll be able to gather enough, but not too much, data to address? You need to make sure you've got enough to make your research valid, but at the same time you don't want to be overwhelmed. This is a bit of a Goldilocks question. Ideally, you're looking for a question that is interesting and significant. Next, you need to think about framing your research question. A well-framed research question will help you to direct your literature review and your research and help you with communicating your ideas to your audience. You need to ask a SMART question. I'm sure you've heard this acronym before, and there are lots of different ways of fleshing it out. But for our purposes, you need to think about a question which is significant, that is interesting to the broader social and natural scientific community, that is manageable, that you can do it with the resources you have available, that is acceptable ethically, that is results orientated, you can produce something which helps you to answer that question which you have asked, and which is time limited, so you have to do it in the time we have available. So let's think about expressing your ideas about topics and claims and questions as a research problem. This is often a really hard part of the process, but you need to be able to name your topic. If someone asks you, what are you working on? What are you going to tell them? Next, you need to add your question. Why is it that you're studying that topic? Finally, add the significance. So, if I'm not interested in your topic, why should I be interested in your question? You can do this in a very basic format by filling in these blanks. So, we are researching because we want to know or to find. And finally, what's this going to give us? Is it going to help us to understand something better, or will it inform practice, or something else? But remember, this is just the beginning. You can revisit and refine your research question as your research progresses and as your literature review develops.